There were many developments in Colorado's gubernatorial race this week. Colorado Lieutenant Governor Donna Lynne has filed paperwork and has begun fundraising, but has not formally announced her entry into the race. Meanwhile, State Treasurer Walker Stapleton is employing a fairly new fundraising strategy in advance of his expected run, with a fundraising event later this month for the Better Colorado Now PAC. And finally, former Denver Mayor Wellington Webb and his wife Wilma officially endorsed Mike Johnston's bid to become the Democratic nominee. Patty, there's stuff all over the place here. Just one of these issues would have been fun to talk about. Now we have three. Take your pick, your reaction this week.
Well, the clown car is getting increasingly crowded, and what's interesting is many of these candidates are not clowns, but it's going to be such a strange numbers game to figure out who comes out on top in the primary. And there's one name we haven't even heard yet, but Eric referred to, which is Cynthia Kaufman, the current Attorney General, who could be a very formidable candidate in the Republican Party too. She would be the only woman running there, whereas now with Donna Lynne, we're looking at maybe 2 women running in the Democratic Party. I don't think people are just going to vote on gender alone, but it makes a difference when you're going in on a very, very crowded field and what there could be 5 or 6 candidates in the Republican Party, how that vote's going to split. Walker Stapleton's approach is interesting. A lot of the old guard Republicans certainly are signing on for that party. He's going to raise a lot of money, which he's going to need because this is going to be a very, very expensive race. Mike Johnston, who's got in earliest, it's interesting that the Webbs are endorsing him. He's made money, which is more important really than the Webbs endorsement on a statewide race.
That one surprised me too, but I could see making a difference, especially if you have a lot of, the Democratic base is going to start in Denver, so even though you're only talking about the Webb's influence in Denver, it could still be influential. David, the methodology that we refer to with Walker Stapleton is that before he officially enters the race, like as basically gubernatorial race-wise a civilian, he can be attending a PAC event, and a PAC can raise as much money as they want from a donor. The event later this month is $10,000 a couple. If he was officially running, it was officially a campaign event, the fundraising restrictions are far lower, I think around $1,000 or so from an individual. Do you think what we're seeing here that started as a federal model for the 2016 presidential race will become more of a local model even beyond Walker Stapleton?
Oh, absolutely, and it's another example of the perversity of campaign finance so-called reform. You know, you have candidates, these laws and restrictions on political speech, including giving money to a candidate to promote that candidate's speech, heavily favor people who are wealthy, like Jared Polis on the Democratic side or Victor Mitchell on the Republican side, who can self-finance, and everyone else is at a disadvantage. You know, and as you say, at the gubernatorial level, you can only get a contribution of, I think it's $1,150, yep, which is pretty low. You know, Eugene McCarthy, who successfully drove incumbent President Lyndon Johnson out of his re-election race by making a strong showing in the New Hampshire primary, always said, I couldn't have done it, what I did in '68, with the campaign finance laws we have now, because you know, if you're Lyndon Johnson in the establishment, you can raise $1,000 at a time pretty readily. But if you're the upstart challenger, you know, he needed some big bucks from a fairly small number of people. And the system always works. And we made campaign elections like the federal corporate tax code, where it's very punitive and complicated for the little guy, but the big guys with the best, who can afford the best lawyers, manage to find workarounds, as Walker Stapleton is doing completely legally.
Eric, we have been around this table tantalized by big, fun, competitive primaries before, and we're talking over a year before the general election of next year's race. And they've kind of fallen apart, which I think is just normal political inertia. But just when we started to think that it's going to contract a little bit with Ed Perlmutter getting out of the race, it's still continuing to grow. We're still hearing more people saying that they're going to run or they're fundraising. Do you think we're going to see some large bruising primaries early next summer?
I think you can guarantee it. Not everyone who's at the starting line might necessarily be at the finish line, but there are going to be plenty of people, plenty of formidable people in both primaries at the finish line. You have, on the Republican side, hard time imagining Brockler, Stapleton. If Kaufman gets in, she gets to the finish line. She might not win, but she at least makes it that far. On the Democratic side, I don't know who goes away. I mean, you have very formidable, substantial people here. A couple of very quick notes. Well, first of all, David's right on campaign finance reform. I won't repeat it, but he hit the nail on the head. For Donna Lynne, it struck me as a weird way to enter or sort of enter the race, mainly because of how coy she's been for the past several months. And if you're going to be that coy, then you got to get in with all 10 toes and all 10 fingers and all the rest. You might be able to play this exploratory committee game in a different circumstance, but it strikes me as not the strongest entry that I could imagine. She could be a strong candidate, but we shall see. For Walker Stapleton, you know, it's reminiscent of a tactic right out of the Jeb Bush playbook, who is a Walker Stapleton relative. It did not work so well for Jeb Bush. Walker will raise a lot of money come 2 or 3 weeks down the road this month at this event. But at some point, he's got to put his cards on the table, get his hat in the ring. There's a coy quality to that, different than the Donna Lynne coy, but I don't think it ultimately serves him. And to Webb, Wellington and Wilma Webb, I mean, hats off to them. Most substantial politicians like that tend to keep their powder dry till they, see which way the wind is blowing and then go with the front runner. That's not the Webb style. They didn't do that. They picked their horse, and more power to them.
No, I'm imagining that as big as these primaries are and the kind of attention they're attracting, it's probably making for some uncomfortable cocktail parties around Colorado. You have Governor Hickenlooper showing up and having to be nice about, Donna Lynne would be a great governor. Oh, and so would Michael Johnston and Kerry Kennedy, and Jared Polis isn't bad. And then you have Republicans going to this fundraiser that's a PAC, but it's as Patty said, the big heavy hitters, Elway showing up, other establishment Republicans who are probably going to be getting phone calls from Brockler and maybe Kaufman and Sheecham's in the race. How do you think these big primaries are going to be affecting Colorado and the community and the politics for the rest of this year?
Well, I think it'll be fun, and for the record, I don't get invited to those cocktail parties. But it should make for interesting politics for an entire year and a half. I'm curious about the public's appetite for this, because we just came off this bruising presidential campaign, and everybody's kind of fatigued from it. And I've heard people go, about the Trump administration and situation in Washington, I just want it to be over. And now we're going to hit this big gubernatorial campaign with, you can't even hardly remember who's jumping in from day to day. So that'll be interesting to see how the public digests all of this. And, is there more disgust to go around if everybody starts getting really petty and at each other's throats, and then we can't get anything done in Colorado either?